Hey, hey. So this week's theme is Masters, Repel the Masses. And this video is going to be a story, a personal story of one of many actually, of my memory of along the path of master. And I share these with you so you can, first of all, just know that like this is a thing. Because what I'm doing right now is I'm educating. I recognize most masters, unclaimed masters, call themselves witches and shamans and mystics and psychics and like real ones, right? Like, because a lot of people like fall in love with it for whatever reason, and their adult lives go through trainings and certifications, but there's the natural born ones who I'm talking about, meaning the ones whose wiring is actually constructed for them to come out and construct worlds. And so I'm sharing these stories. I have so many, but I'm only sharing one today to speak to what this looks like in real life. Being repelled, being looked at suspiciously, particularly when you have not walked through the door of master. Because once you've walked through the door of master, you're clear, you're aware, you know, and you've made the decision to give yourself over to this body of work that you were born to bring to market. So, yeah, I wanted to say that about the titles because I see, there's an evolution, and yeah. There's so many nuances and paradoxes, so a lot comes through and I'm like, okay, say, don't say. All right, so mine and yours, frankly, if you really are you're most likely an unclaimed master, if you come back here repeatedly, if you sort of secretly watch me, and maybe you don't show up live because you're afraid for me to see you, but you come back later and look at the replay, or you secretly come to the page and look and see because it speaks to you because you were born a master and you disconnected from the truth of who you are long ago and fell into amnesia, became this other person, like a whole cloth of another human being. And then so many stories happen on your path to get you to the door of master. And some of the experiences that I'm sure you've had are being in environments where weird things start happening in the room, and you sense things already, but because you don't have language yet about who you are, because you haven't claimed who you are, because you're still in a kind of closet and pretending in a state of amnesia, when the weird things start happening, first of all, you don't even know how to ensure that doesn't happen because you're not playing the game yet of master. So there's a certain set of rules that even govern that world that help you to be able to handle any room, or even handle even a new situation as a master. And so you've had these experiences where weird things start happening in a room, and weird things happen in relationships with people, and you start to notice a common denominator with all these people, that there's like these chaotic things that happen, or people call you a certain thing all the time, whether they call you intense or too much, or make you just like you don't belong there, right? These kinds of experiences. And so one experience I had, this was so long ago. This could be 2010 or it could be 2012. It's somewhere in that window. And I had met this woman. I don't even remember how we met. I just remember the night this weird thing happened. And at the time I was just like, what the fuck? But as I lived more and I got, started having more experiences and waking up more and more and more to who I was, and started looking back and connecting the dots, as you may have already started to do and will be able to do even more as I talk about this. Or if you go back and watch the video that I did like 2-3 weeks ago, where I talked about how to connect the dots so you can start to tap into what you were born to do. Because of it, I'm now able to look back and say, oh, Yeah, of course. I know exactly what that was and why and how that could have been handled and etc. So oftentimes when you're an unclaimed master, you'll end up in environments that you either shouldn't be in or you don't know how to handle being in that space. You know, and you carry a lot of resentment around this because your deeper self knows that there's a way to be, that you're out of alignment with who you're supposed to be, and yet here you are in this goddamn environment where this cheap drama is happening. So here I met this woman. Don't remember where we met. We made dinner plans, and she also had some other people she wanted to come to the dinner with us, and so she had everybody meet her at her apartment. I remember that part. Oakland, California. And keep in mind, I have not told this story in years. This story literally just came to me like in the middle of this past night. And so instead of me like trying to sit down and remember it all, I am trusting that there's something else that's not even in my conscious mind right now that wants to come through to give to whoever's watching this. So just be mindful of that if I'm like as I'm talking. So we all meet at her apartment in Oakland, and we go to the restaurant. It was Flora. If you're familiar with Midtown Oakland, we went to Flora Restaurant. And so it's a really nice restaurant. My first time here, it was her suggestion. And so there's me, her, and her and two other women. So there's four of us total. And so we end up getting if I recall, a round table. We're sitting at a round table. And we've ordered, we're talking, chatting. I've never met these other two women who she's invited. They're friends of hers. And so we're all sitting at this round table and ordering, talking, that kind of a thing. And I remember we have our food. And I remember before we even got there when we were at the apartment, because when I got to her apartment, I think one of her friends was there. She was still getting ready, something like that. And I remember when they arrived and we were like talking, there was this awareness that these are not my people. Like, I don't belong here. We're like, I don't know what this is, just like that thing, right? And I had just met this other woman. And a thing that happens when you're an unclaimed master is, because you're in an amnesic state about who you are and where you belong, you'll choose people who will illuminate how much you're out of, meaning like you'll allow people in who don't belong in your field. So when you are a claim master, people show up, but they're not welcome into your field, right? Because there's just people all the time. Right? And so you'll have these people. And that's where the cheap drama comes in, these weird relationships. Because when you're in amnesia, there's no way you can operate from a place of power, clean power, true power, when you're in an amnesic state, because you're not being who you really are. So your choices are deductive choices. They are unclean choices. So the fact that I was even in a relationship with this woman who I had just met, a claimed master would have first wouldn't have even chosen her. All right, so let me keep it moving. So I remember being at the table and there's like conversation going on among all of us, but I'm doing my best. So much energy. Oh my God, so much energy to get along in this space where I don't belong. Can you relate? Where you end up in environments where you shouldn't be there, but you want to be nice, right? You want to belong, you want to be welcome. And so what happens is that starts to compete with your wiring, okay? This starts to compete with your wiring, especially if there's another unclaimed master in that space. Now, see, this is the part I don't recall, but it's coming to me while I'm speaking, which is why I said I trust that it will need to come. When you're in a space, let's say you're in a room of 10 people, and the 8 people are normal people, but 2 of you are unclaimed masters. and weird shit starts to happen. Even though neither one of you are awake, there will be a shared sensing between the two of you. Now, let me tell you how I'm connecting this right now as I'm speaking. Now, first of all, okay, so we're talking, right, and it's what, and I remember feeling like I'm not supposed to be here, like wanting to leave. But I'm playing nice. So I'm exerting exhaustive amounts of energy to be in the space, to play nice, to not rock a boat, to make sure they don't realize or figure out that I know things and that this is not my space, that I see who they are, and I'm like ready to run. So that's already like, that's an exhaustive life, right? Which is why I never freaking last. So then we're eating and this silence falls over our space. We're already we're talking, right? And then suddenly this silence falls over the space. And we're in a restaurant. Like it's either Friday or Saturday night. So it's busy. The restaurant is full. And you ever be in a busy place, but there's a silence among you and who you're with? That's what happened. And so there's like a digging because we're eating, right? And I remember vividly. The woman to my left, I remember she had curly hair. The woman to my left was like, suddenly, and it was so odd at the moment because like, oh, we're having a good time, right? She sort of like, she's like this, right? Because we're in an eating state. And she just looks up, she's like, is everybody okay? Like just like out the blue, is everybody okay? And so at the table, it's like she's there, then the other woman is there, and then the woman who originally invited me is there. And the woman who's to my right looks over to me and says, Naima, are you okay? Like there's a... See, I can laugh now. In that moment, I was nervous. Like, oh, they were seeing me. They were seeing something in me that I hadn't even fully identified and claimed in myself. When you're out of your position as master, to be seen is a scary thing. When you're in your position as master, you want people to see you for who you are. It's particularly the people you're meant to be in relationship with. Your clients, your colleagues, your lover, your all those people. So the woman says to me, Naima, are you okay? Like she knows that there's something about me that's making me not fit. Man, I can laugh at this shit in hindsight. Can you relate to this? And this is happening for you. This is happening, like this kind of weird shit, blow ups. I mean, I could go on other stories, blow ups. And so she asked me, Naima, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm lying. Yeah, totally. Are you okay? Like, is everybody okay? Like I joined the are you okay crowd. Are you okay? Lying like a mug. So I remember we finished dinner and we went outside and we stood outside and I left from there. I think we were there was like this talk about us going either dance, something. And there was an agreement to go. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go now. Like when we finished and we, gathered outside and we were just like making our plans for where we were going to go next. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go. And the woman who invited me, I remember like she like signaled in some kind of way for the other two to go like stand off to the side so she could connect with me before we officially departed. And so that the two that she invited walked, off to the side and she stood there with me. And I don't remember exactly what she said, but what I do remember is that there was this acknowledgement that I was different. But it wasn't like in a shameful way. It was like an awareness and thank you for being here and have a good night. And like, we're not meant to be in a relationship. And it was one of the cleanest experiences I've had, actually. And to this day, as I'm right now, as I'm telling this, I believe that she was an unclaimed master. She was either an unclaimed master who had resolved the fact that she was never going to claim master, or she was a normal person who has a kind of understanding of the hierarchy. I don't even know if hierarchy is the word, but she has the awareness that, you know, even if she doesn't have the language, she has an awareness that there are those who are different and who don't fit with the norm. And she's resolved that within herself. Like, she fits in that, you know, unique category of people. Excuse me, go up. Let me finish, please. Let me finish. And so, so I'm going to wrap up now because I got folks visiting me. So be in touch with me about Roundtable 2020. If I've been talking about this, so you can go back on the page and look at what that's about. And the real point I want to make here is that it's okay, first of all, to not fit in as a master. You were wired that way. And I wanted to really give voice to that. You were wired that way. There's more. So I'll be speaking to that throughout the week. This week is about masters repel the masses.